Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's begin your daily quiz. Question number 1 on your screen is this. Consider the following statements with regards to the Defense Acquisition Council and choose the correct ones. Number 1. It is the highest decision making body in the Defense Ministry for deciding on new policies and capital acquisitions for the three services and the Indian Coast Guard. Second, the Chief of Defense Staff, that is the CDS, is the chairman of the council. Third, it was formed after the group of ministers recommended on reforming the national security system in 2001 post the Kargil War of 1999. You have to choose the correct ones, and the answer here is C. First and the third statements are correct. The second statement is wrong. Why? Because a chairman of the council is the defense minister of India, while the CDS and the chief of all the military services are members of the DAC. It is headed by the defense minister of the country. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this article in the Hindu newspaper today that talks about the DAC clearing proposals worth close to 8,000 crores, which include multiple acquisitions from Indian companies also, such as the HAL, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and BHEL, that is Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Of late, the Defense Ministry has been focusing and trying to replicate most of our imports by acquiring it from companies within India. It will give a boost to Make in India project and also save considerable amount of cost for the Defense Ministry. It also says that the deal for naval guns, for which negotiations were ongoing with the US since 2019, ultimately had to be cancelled because a expected price could not be arrived at. Time now for question number 2. Countering America's adversaries through Sanctions Act, also known as CATSA, a United States federal law, does not impose sanctions on which of the following nations: Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, or Russia? The correct answer here is Afghanistan. The CATSA law has been in the news specifically with regards to India's decision to buy the S 400 missile defense system from Russia. This is an American law under which, if any country deals specifically in defense with these three nations, they would invite sanctions from the side of the US. The reason why it is in the news is because a Hindu newspaper carried this article today, according to which many Republican senators support the fact that India should get a waiver from the CATSA. The headline says that the GOP senators, GOP stands for Grand Old Party. Out of the two main political parties in the US, the Republican Party, which is much older as compared to a Democratic Party, is also known as the GOP. Many times you would also see our Indian National Congress being referred to as the GOP. The GOP senators who are in the opposition right now have argued that India should get a waiver from CATSA. That is, India should not have to face sanctions from the US for its decision to go ahead with S 400 defense system from Russia. Ever since India has finalized this deal, the US has been threatening India with sanctions. Interestingly, as per the law, the US president can give exception to certain nations on a case by case basis. It is widely expected that India might not have to face sanctions for its decisions to buy the S 400 defense system. It is interesting to note that this proposal by the GOP senators is not just for India. In fact, the proposal says that the US president should not impose sanctions against the Quad nations. As you know, the Quad group of nations include the US, India, Australia, and Japan, which has been formed to counter the spread of Chinese influence in the Indo Pacific region. Although this legislation has not been passed so far in the US Congress, but it is worth noting that the senators of the opposition party have raised their voice in support of India. The legislation says that India and other Quad nations should be given a time of 10 years to change their defense buying so that in the next 10 years they don't face any sanctions from the US just for buying their weapons from Russia or other nations covered under CATSA. Moving on to the third question. Consider the following statements with regards to Ayushman CAPF scheme. Number 1. It will provide healthcare services to the serving and retired CAPF personnel from all seven forces, including Assam Rifles, BSF, CISF, CRPF, ITBP, NSG, and SSB, and their dependents through the Ayushman Bharat PM Jan Arogya Yojana IT platform. Second, a dedicated call center for support and grievance redressal for CAPF personnel has also been set up. Third, under this scheme, any medical expense done by the CAPF personnel will be reimbursed up to the limit of rupees 5 lakh per family. Which of these given statements is or are incorrect? The answer here would be C 1 and 3. The first and the third statements are wrong. Why? The first statement is wrong because this scheme only applies to the serving CAPF personnel and their dependents, not to those who have retired from their CAPF service. It does cover all the seven CAPF forces which are given here in this first statement and their dependents, but not those personnel who have retired. Second question is correct. Third again is wrong. Why? Because his entire Ayushman Bharat scheme, which is a parent scheme of this CAPF Ayushman scheme, provides cashless medical cover. So the CAPF personnel don't have to pay any money upfront and get it reimbursed. It is all cashless. So you will be getting an Ayushman Bharat card in the hospitals that have tied up under this scheme. You just have to show this card. You don't have to give any money. Now, the fact is that this scheme was announced by the government in January this year. But the reason why we are discussing this today is because the Home Minister Amit Shah just started distributing the Ayushman CAPF scheme cards. This news was covered today in the Indian Express newspaper, under which the Home Minister can be seen handing over the health card to the National Security Guard. Also, remember that these CAPF, that is Central Armed Police Forces personnel, work under the Home Ministry and not the Defense Ministry. So, all these forces that you see here work under the jurisdiction of the Home Ministry of India. Next question. Consider the following statements with regards to the recently released guidelines on NPAs by the Union Finance Ministry. Number 1. Staff accountability need not be examined in case of NPA accounts with outstanding of up to rupees 20 lakh. Second, the accountability exercise, whenever needed, must be completed within 3 months from the date that the account is declared as NPA. Third, if NPA is caused by external factors such as change in government policies or natural calamities, it should not attract a staff accountability examination. Which of these given statements is incorrect? The first statement is incorrect. Why? Because as per the latest guidelines, if NPA is up to rupees 10 lakh, not 20, then it should not involve examining the accountability of the bank personnel. Second statement is again wrong because the accountability exercise has to be completed within 6 months and not 3 months. The third statement is absolutely correct. So, since you had to choose the incorrect ones, the answer here is A. 1 and 2 are wrong. The reason why we are asking this is because of an extremely important article in the Indian Express newspaper today, which talks about the new guidelines regarding NPAs released by the Union Finance Ministry. These guidelines include fixing accountability at various levels depending upon the amount of money involved in the NPA account. For instance, it says that up to rupees 10 lakh, there is no need to fix accountability of the staff. However, when it comes to an NPA account which has money from rupees 10 lakh to 1 crore, there would be an examination conducted to see if any staff of the bank is accountable. When the amount becomes higher, that is rupees 1 crore to 50 crore, the inquiry would be done by a committee at one level higher than the sanction level. So, if an officer sanctioned the loan, then the committee that will examine the loan will be one level higher than the sanction authority. The framework also says that all this examination and accountability exercise must be completed within 6 months from the date that the account has been declared as NPA. The detail of such exercises should be placed before a special committee of the board for monitoring and follow up of frauds, and the RBI at every quarterly interval should also be informed about the findings of the committee. This is specifically keeping in mind the increasing instances of NPAs which involve banking staff themselves who approve the loans without doing the due diligence. So it is a method to fix the accountability of the staff that is working inside the bank. These guidelines will be implemented with effect from 1st April 2022 for the accounts that turn into NPAs beginning next financial year. So it would not be applicable to the current NPA accounts. It also tells you that if NPA is caused by external factors such as change in a government policy, natural calamities, or non release of government subsidy or grant, it should not attract any staff accountability examination. Moving on to the next question. This is a previous year question from the year 2019. Consider the following statements. Number 1. The motion to impeach a judge of the Supreme Court of India cannot be rejected by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha as per the Judges Enquiry Act 1968. Second, the Constitution of India defines and gives details of what constitutes incapacity and proved misbehavior of the judges of the Supreme Court of India. Third, the details of the process of impeachment of the judges of the Supreme Court of India are given in the Judges Enquiry Act of 1968. Fourth, if the motion for the impeachment of a judge is taken up for voting, the law requires the motion to be backed by each house of the parliament and supported by a majority of total membership of that house and by not less than two-thirds of the total member of that house present and voting. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Question from Indian Polity. The first statement is wrong. Let's discuss how exactly does the removal of a Supreme Court judge happen. For removing a Supreme Court judge, if the process starts in the Lok Sabha, then at least 100 members have to support the resolution. If it starts in the Rajya Sabha, at least 50 members have to support the resolution. After the required number of members show their support, it depends on the presiding officer whether or not he or she wants to take it ahead. So it is an option for the presiding officer whether to take the resolution ahead or not. It is not binding on him or her. So the first statement is wrong because the motion can be rejected. For example, in 2017, when such a motion was initiated in the Rajya Sabha against Justice Deepak Mishra, 50 members of the Rajya Sabha did support it, but the Rajya Sabha chairperson, the Honorable Vice President, rejected the motion and did not take it forward. The second statement also is wrong. While the Constitution says that the reason for removing the judge would be incapacity and proved misbehavior, there is no definition or there is no detail given about this phrase. So far in the history of India, no Supreme Court or High Court judge has been removed by this process. Third statement and the fourth statements are absolutely correct. That is why the correct answer here would be C. 3 and 4 are correct. Time now to move to the fact of the day today, and today we will be discussing about Public Affairs Index, that is PAI 2021, that ranks the states of India in the order of how they are governed. It is released by the Public Affairs Center and it says that in 2021 Kerala was the best governed state of India. This index analyzes the performances of the states based on three main parameters, that is, equity, growth, and sustainability. While in the overall ranking, Kerala got the first spot. It is the only state to have a PAI index score of over 1. So its score is 1.618. Apart from the overall ranking, The index also gives ranking on the basis of different parameters such as equity, growth, and sustainability. In the rankings based on equity, amongst the large states, Gujarat came in first, while amongst the smaller states, Sikkim performed the best. This equity pillar mainly focuses on inclusiveness in policy making, meaning while the government of the state makes a certain policy, are they taking into consideration all sections of the citizens or not? In the growth index, it was Telangana that scored the best marks amongst the large states, while Goa was at the top in the small states category. The growth index focuses on building of resources and utilizing of resources by the state government such as infrastructure. So it takes into consideration how the state has performed in key areas such as healthcare, education and employment, how many jobs have been created, if the people of the state have to rush outside the state to get their healthcare or education, and how satisfied are they with the performance of their government in these fields. In the sustainability index, it was Kerala again amongst the large states that had the top spot, while Mizoram was at the top amongst the small states. In terms of sustainability, the index mainly focuses on the use of resources, its impact on the environment, economy, and humankind. It mainly focuses on the balance that the state government has tried to keep between development and sustaining the environment. Surprisingly, Delhi was also among the worst performers when it came to equity and sustainability. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.